Hi everyone, how you doing? I'm Linda Orstano. I'm the Executive Director for AWARE Drug and Alcohol Community Coalition, and I want to thank you all very much for being here tonight. We have a wonderful panel, and hopefully it'll be very interactive and they'll answer some of your questions, and we'll take it from there. But before we start, I just want to introduce, we have Deborah Winters, and Deborah is a therapist. She's a parent coach, and she is an author of Building Your House of Harmony, which is a parent's blueprint to cooperation and respect and lasting change. We would all love that, right? So, and then we have Detective Caracas. Okay, he's with Northport Police, and he's here to try to answer some questions about online stuff as well. We have Daniel Sturry, who's an attorney, and I don't know if that you have the name of your firm or...
I'm the founding member of Stern Summit, a business and transactional firm. And I'm also the parent of a 13-year-old and a 2-year-old. And so I'm living your guys' lights as well.
And then we have Len Kaplan, who is the president and owner of
CDML Computer Services. We're a managed service provider and managed security service provider. So we predominantly work with organizations, including a lot of non-for-profits. And we provide the tools that let the organizations actually service their clients. So a lot of it is obviously technology-oriented towards the consumer end. And I also am a father of 2 young ladies. I can't call them girls anymore because I'll be in trouble. But yeah, I know the life.
Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate it. And we have our illustrious Chloe Kang. And Chloe is One Life from Northport High School. Yay, Chloe. So we're so happy that you took the time out of your evening to come and participate with us. And does anybody know what One Life is or don't know what One Life is? So One Life is our youth coalition at Northport High School, and they handle 3 areas. They handle mental health, they handle substance misuse, and environmental strategies. So, and they work peer-to-peer at the high school, which is really great. And we're so happy to have them as part of us. And if I could say, I'm really thrilled because we started with 1 member and we're up to how many? A bunch, 30, 35, 40. 40. So that's really great in high school. So I'm really happy about that. I also want to thank Rich for hosting this tonight. He's the owner of Northport Books with his wife, Jen. Okay, so I just want to read something and then we'll start. So I saw this book when I came in and I thought it was great. It's called The Amazing Generation. And actually it's for children. So The Greedy Wizards and the Curse of the Stones. Once upon a time, a group of wizards created magical, glowing stones studded with glittering gems. They promised that these stones would bring friendship, freedom, and fun to anyone who picked one up. People worked to grab them, and before long, anyone without a stone felt left out. Some of the wizards tried to live up to the promises, but others became greedy. Instead of making life better, they tricked people into carrying their stones with them everywhere they went and gazing into them all day. Why? Because these greedy wizards have figured out how to turn human energy into gold. The more time people spent looking at their stones, the richer the greedy wizards became, and the more their promises began to seem like lies. Instead of finding friendship, people began to feel lonely. Instead of having fun, they felt anxious and sad. Instead of finding freedom, they felt controlled by their stones. But then something amazing happened. A few brave young people found the strength to look up. All around them, they saw people standing motionless, trapped by their stones, and they decided to break free. These young rebels began hanging out, going on adventures, and doing things they'd love to do before they fell under the stone's spell. Every experience they had together made them feel more confident and connected. And the more fun they had, the stronger they became. Other kids and teenagers heard the rebels' laughter and decided to join them. The greedy wizards, terrified their powers might be slipping away, began to pack even more tricks into the stones. But for the first time ever, the wizards faced resistance. Today, this rebellion is growing. On one side of the greedy wizards, desperate to keep stealing people's energy so that they can get richer. On the other side are the rebels, young people who have wised up to the wizard's tricks and who have wanted to keep their energy for themselves. The winner of the struggle will determine what life is like, not just for their generation, but for generations to come. So which side will win? The answer depends on you. And you as the parents, there's a lot of information that we hope to talk about that can help you make the decision. Tonight's conversation isn't about banning phones or blaming parents or kids. It's about understanding how screen time and social media affect our children's brains, sleep, emotions, relationships, and how we can respond in healthy, realistic ways as families and communities. So I want to start centering youth voice because young people are living this every day. So I'm going to start with Chloe. So Chloe, when does screen time feel helpful for you? And when does it start to feel like too much?
Screen time is one of the biggest things when it comes to communicating with friends, their peers. It's a great source of communication, especially for those that struggle with like social anxiety. However, it does become too much sometimes when kids kind of lose track of their screen time and like they pick up bad habits, such as when it comes to going to bed at night or when it's just like getting things done and making procrastination excuses.
How much pressure is there to respond right away to text or social media call?
There could be a lot of pressure in some cases and sort of for saying you don't want to hurt, just for saying your friends text you, you don't want to hurt your friends' feelings as though it might feel like you're ignoring them or you're, mad at them. It could also be a sense of fear of missing out. You want to know instantly, like, what's going on, like, what could have possibly happened. Like, your brain goes straight to, like, almost like a fear of, like, something more happen, right? Yeah.
I suffer from the same thing. It's get a text message from me to look at it no matter what. If I forget my phone at home, there's like a constant 15 minutes of anxiety. I mean, eventually I get better. Sorry, guys. But I feel your pain as well.
Deborah, what happens in the developing brain with excessive screen use?
Well, excessive screen use is going to increase dopamine. I think a lot of us already know that. But what happens to the dopamine when it comes down? It can create dysregulation, nervous systems, out of whack. So you could have a lot of temperamental problems because your kids. I always say that like screens are like a synthetic nap. Like if you ever taken a nap on an airplane or on a train, it's not the same as taking it in your bedroom or in your own room. So you wake up on the train and you're like, oh, I mean, that was like okay, but it's not the same as having a good night's sleep. So if you're on your phone, it might be entertaining, but it's not the same as going outside and getting fresh air and have a real laughs with your friends. So
also, Deborah, what mental health patterns are you seeing related to screens?
Again, I think the most obvious one most of us are hearing about is it's increasing anxiety, some depression, social isolation, social comparison. I think the less obvious ones are what Chloe was just saying about how kids are using phones for social anxiety. So if you're a young person who's not really in touch with your feelings yet and you're uncomfortable and you put your phone in front of you, you're not processing those feelings. So there's lower levels of frustration that occur as a result. So we're really preventing our kids from learning how to regulate, which can cause problems later on in relationships.
Lynn, how are apps designed to keep users engaged longer?
Well, so it's the short answer is very simple, right? It's capitalism. The longer you're in the app, the more money the app maker makes. It's that simple. However, there's a much deeper answer, and it kind of relates to what has been said so far. Look, technology has permeated every single aspect of our life at this point, right? It's not just about your phone, your TV, your computer, my God, how many people have digital panels in their home, right? To turn on your security system, what do? You probably go to the touchpad, right? Just think about it. Everything is technology. Nowadays, all that technology is connected. right? So it all becomes one huge ecosystem of which you are a part. You're not controlling it. You're a part of it. You have to look at it from a different perspective. I have two daughters. Mine are a little bit older. And when they were growing up, Facebook was the rage. I know it's for old people now. I know. But we used to have fights in the house because, being a tech expert, we had everything automated. 10 o'clock, you couldn't get on Facebook. Nowadays, it's almost impossible to do that because you don't need Facebook. But furthermore, it's actually taken a shift in a different direction because now with the introduction of AI and what it's doing for the rest of the whole ecosystem that we're part of, that AI agent is your friend. Now you're talking to that agent. You're asking AI instead of asking your parents, instead of asking your peers. Right? So it's not about the apps that are designed to keep you in there. It's about us. And we are forcing ourselves, we're teaching ourselves to actually use those apps.
So let me just ask, how much personal data are kids sharing without even realizing it?
Why just kids? How much personal data are all of us sharing? I bet you that if I ask this room right now, how many people have filters on their email, privacy filters, nobody will raise their hand, or maybe one or two people will raise their hands, right? If I, however, do a thorough search through your email, I will find your bank information, your social security number, probably your mother's social security number, and so on and so forth. Guys, we are a part of this digital life now. We're not managing it. We're not using it. It's not using us. It's all together. It's fusion.
So what do algorithms and notifications actually do?
I don't think we have enough time for that.
How about a short synopsis?
Okay, so, all right, what's an algorithm? An algorithm is a mathematical calculation, right? It's a formula. It's something that is designed to achieve a certain result. That's how you get to your results. And computers are based on math. Everything in computers is based on math. It used to be ones and zeros. I guess it's no longer ones and zeros now with we've evolved. It's natural language, but it's still computers. It's still based on that basic technology. So everything in computers has to be programmed. Everything is based on the formula. And the formulas that you hear about these algorithms, the social media companies, TikTok algorithms, Facebook algorithms, all they are is a way to analyze your usage of the application and present you with more information, with more data of similar content that will keep you engaged in the application longer. But again, I'll revert back to what I said a little earlier about AI. Guess what, folks? When you're talking to your ChatGPT or to your Gemini, or if you're using an Android phone where Gemini is embedded in the whole Android ecosystem, you can't even fully turn it off, right? What do you think that AI is doing? It is doing the same exact thing. It is analyzing all of that data that you're putting in. It is analyzing those conversations, and depending on what plan you are and so on and so forth. Again, it's a very extensive discussion if we can get into, but all that data is not only being stored and processed to help you, but it's also being stored and processed to teach that large language model, the LLMs that are behind the AI.
So we're here to talk about youth predominantly, but of course it affects everybody. Of course, what can parents do to protect their kids from all of this?
So, or this. Lead by example, right? So nowadays, I go out to eat. I go out to restaurants, and folks, I'm shocked. Parents just shove a phone in their kids' hands and you take care of yourself. Don't bother me. Let me eat. I remember when Blanca and I used to, if we could go to restaurants, used to go on trips, whatever, we would have a bag with coloring books, with all kinds of little toys, little games, like little board games or something. The little table game. Huh?
You didn't have a phone option. It's much. It is much easier to.
It's easier, but I did have a phone option. I mean,
So, it's interesting because we're here talking about growing up online. Okay. So there's a balance. We can't tell them don't use social media today. Don't use, all of these tools, but we have to learn how to balance it. Detective Caracas, I have a question. What types of issues are you most seeing often related to social media among youth?
So social media, I mean, my crowd, I'm with it, is for young people, I think it's absolutely terrible. Causes a lot of problems. We're fortunate enough in the village that we don't see a lot that the county does, but a few things happened last year that do come to my mind. Really, you would think that there's a lot of cyberbullying going on, and I'm sure there is. I'm sure there's a lot of cyberbullying that's going on that, we don't even know about. But the most prominent thing that people come into my office for are actually catfishing. They grab these people through social media, particularly adolescent boys think they're talking to another girl, and that girl sends them pictures, and then that young male sends what he thinks is another girl's picture, and it's not. And it's a bad guy, and next thing you know, they're getting extorted for money. Pay me $500 to this account, or I'm going to put your pictures all over social media. And this obviously causes a lot of grief and anxiety for, say, a 15-year-old boy, and it's, not good. So we've had those issues. Also, just, with young people having the capability to send text messages out, it's a lot different making fun of someone or saying some real nasty thing. It's harder to say face-to-face. It's like how we all grew up. If you had an issue with someone, you went to their face and you said it. Now it's easier to send a text message, and you get these horrible horrible messages through phished phone numbers. The phone numbers don't even come back to the kids anymore. You can download apps and you can make fake numbers and send stuff, and it's relatively impossible for us to trace.
How quickly can an online situation escalate into a school or community safety concern?
Pretty quick. So again, back in our day, if someone wants to tell a story or a rumor, it usually took a couple of days before it got around. Now, social media and smartphones, something happens, it's safe to say the entire community and school can know about it by day's end.
So what don't students and parents often realize can become a legal issue?
Well, the texting back and forth. When you get in someone's face and you say, hey, I'm going to beat you up, meet you by the flagpole later, that's not a crime. It can constitute harassment, a violation, but it's not a crime which you can get prosecuted for. If you text somebody that and you threaten someone bodily harm or injury or death on a text message, that is actually a crime. That's aggravated harassment. You get arrested, you get fingerprinted, you get booked, you go through court. Also, again, with the smartphones with the cameras, people taking pictures of each other, putting themselves in compromising situation, and then sending that to other people, that opens up a whole litany of crimes, whether it be a picture that you took of someone that you don't have consent to or they thought they had a right to privacy for, and then you send that to other people, that can constitute a misdemeanor of unlawful dissemination of an intimate image. That law was actually created, I think, 2 or 3 years ago because a rising problem of people sending pictures of their ex-girlfriends, of other friends, in interesting situations.
Can you repeat that law?
Unlawful dissemination of the intimate image. It's a Class A misdemeanor.
So this is when somebody who's not involved in the incident shares the
Right. Say, you have two 18-year-olds and Phones have cameras now, and I don't know why people do it, but they do it, and you send each other
They do.
pictures.
Yeah.
Once you send that and it's in cyberspace, it's up for grabs from anybody.
Yeah.
That person sends it to somebody else. They find out. That's a crime. Also, a lot of parents don't understand as well. They're 16. My 15-year-old sent it to his girlfriend. Well, the law sees that as possessing or promoting a sexual image. That's, put in layman's terms, child pornography. Now we're talking felonies and stuff. It's a serious issue. A lot of parents don't understand that, but the law applies to that. It's a serious thing, and unfortunately, there's no real way to stop it unless, you teach it at home. Don't do that. Do not take pictures of yourself. Do not send that to anybody, even if it's your boyfriend or girlfriend. Don't do it.
Chloe, have you seen social media affect friendships?
No. A big part of social media is that drama can spread really fast, even in under a day. It's just you text one friend and it becomes like a domino effect. They text another and it gets around the entire school. And with the social media and people's self-esteem, they could see just for saying a highlight or a reel or TikTok, and they can wish that maybe it was their life, but they don't really know the true life story behind the person that's posting it. For all we know, it could be fake. It could just be a little stand-up for what's really happening behind the screen.
What's one thing adults misunderstand about how kids use their phones?
One thing is that it is a huge communication source for kids. While they might see it as a distraction, it could be helpful for education. I know a lot of kids my age use it for saying Greek classroom or sending emails quickly. Or it could be just as a source to text their parents and immediate family.
Deborah, how does online comparison affect self-esteem and identity?
Think about the ages of kids who are getting a phone. That tends to be the age where they're coming into their own. So they are figuring out how to connect with others, where they fit in, how they fit in. And so now you've got this constant device in front of them that's showing them what they could be like, or who they should be like, or what they're not invited to, or if they don't get a like, or someone doesn't continue their streak on Snapchat. It's a rejection, and it's just a constant battle between for a young person to recognize what's real and what's not real.
Right.
Kids have always had big feelings, but social media and screens are just shining a big bright light on them.
Dan, what has been your biggest challenge around screen time?
Controlling it. I have a 13-year-old, like I said, and even with my infant, but more with a 13-year-old, it's you put rules in place and you have discussions, and unfortunately the apps are so addictive that they don't care if they disregard them. We started with pretty simple rules. Your phone, Apple provides parental controls, right? So we would set it up so the phone would shut down at 9 o'clock, right? The only thing that she could do after 9 o'clock was call me and call my wife. That lasted for about 2 months. And then we went in her room one night at about 10 o'clock and she was on her phone and we were very confused. Well, looked at her phone and instead of saying 10:07, it said 7:07, right? She had got in, turned the phone to Pacific times, and she used her phone till midnight and then went to sleep, right? It was very smart, right? But and one side we were applauding, on the other side we were like, yeah, what do we do? That was 3 years ago, right? And then called Apple. Said, excuse me, I have a question. So then the next thing we did was put more Apple's control on her. But what we realized is she was just logging out of her Apple ID and logging in under an adult's application, right? And once she did that, I lost the ability to track her. I lost the ability to control her screen time and all those things. Called Apple, and Apple's like, there's nothing we can do to stop her from logging out, right? We don't have software controls on that. The only thing you can do is download a third-party software application onto her phone, which is really, really invasive, right? And it's, as a parent, you're balancing security versus invasiveness. My wife and I went with the less invasive application. We just physically take her phone away at night. If you do the more invasive apps that we go parents that have done is, I'm coming. It's a full-time job, right? And I have a full-time job. I have a law firm. I draft privacy policies for these companies that are stealing your data, and I help them own it, right? And things like that, right? It's really hard. That's kind of the long and short. There are apps, again, that will help you, but it's really hard. when I see my daughter in her bed on her phone, I don't care what time of day it is, even if it's noon on a Sunday, I get angry. My immediate reaction is bed rotting. Why aren't you doing something productive? Go out with your friends. I know you work hard all week, but like being on your phone just if is a real big trigger for me, and I struggle with that. So I don't have a good answer other than it's really hard. And I wish I was a parent back when my parents were parents, because I think it would be easier, at least in that respect.
So just kind of to continue this thought, right? I'm speaking to the adults here. How many of you read Under the Covers with a Flashlight? Yeah, exactly, right? So this is just the next stage, folks. Kids always did something that they weren't supposed to. The difference is the chances of that flashlight, causing somebody to commit suicide because they were exposed on social media are pretty slim, right? But kids were kids, are kids, and will always be kids. Now, as far as parental controls go, there's a limit to everything. And we always tell this to our clients. Now, we deal, like I said in the beginning, we deal primarily with organizations. So we don't really get into the individual level, but cybersecurity and controls of anything that's technology fall under the cybersecurity framework. So cybersecurity, you have to think of it as layers, right? So kind of like when you ski, right? When you dress in the winter, you try to put on layers. Same thing, cybersecurity. There's no such thing as 100% secure system. There just isn't. There's no such thing as 100% parental control. Your most advanced control is teaching the kids and showing the kids, leading by example. Don't do what you don't want them to do. It's really that simple. But as far as effectiveness, yeah, you can implement all the controls. You got to keep in mind that you have to deploy those controls on each of the devices. So first, you have to have an inventory of all your devices, which a lot of people don't even know what they have. And then, I don't remember who mentioned. Oh, I think my hair over here, Dan mentioned it. Yeah, that it was a balance. Do I buy this third-party application, which is invasive, which is a tracking app in essence, right? Or do I just kind of battle it out as a parent? So that always becomes a problem. And even with those tracking apps, guys, there's always a way around it. And with AI and with peers, kids are advanced enough. Yes, maybe not a 10-year-old, but believe me, a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old will figure out how to get around it.
Go ahead, Deb. You want to respond to something?
So I'm not sure how many of you know my background, but I essentially teach parents how to communicate with their kids and teens to avoid comfort and nagging and all the things that we hate. So one of the things that I like to remember is that we can't control everything in their environment, right? We wish we could, but we can't. And maybe we don't want to either, because like you were saying, there's a natural developmental thing going on, right? Kids have to be a little naughty and defiant. But when all else fails, like Dan was saying, like he gets really agitated when his kids are on the phone. He walks in, sees his daughter bed rotting. Like that is a trigger. It's an emotional trigger. If you enter into a conversation emotional, you have to remember you're going to end your conversation with emotions. So there are ways and strategies that you can help yourself enter into these tricky conversations, because third-party apps, great. Taking phones away, great. You got to know your kid, great. But if all else fails, remember, like, screens are everywhere. They're omnipresent, right? We have to learn how to live with them, so we have to learn how to talk about them. So one of the things that I think is important to ask as a parent is, why is my kid using this device right now? Why are they on this phone right now? And so if we start with curiosity, it can take us out of that controlling role, which tends to increase defiance, increase opposition. So that's a little bit about that.
So how does cyberbullying show up emotionally?
I know that that's emotional, right? That brings on a lot of shame and a lot of fear for kids. So they're oftentimes going to not tell their parents because they're afraid their parents might overreact or step in.
Mm-hmm.
So it can create a lot of social isolation for the child in terms of emotions that you'd want to look out for: changed behaviors, changed patterns. Like anything else with any addiction, decreased desire to do things that they used to like to do, maybe not socializing as much in person, anything that you could think of that maybe makes you wonder if something's going on.
Detective,
Yes.
what advice do you give students about protecting themselves online?
I usually tell them when they're in my office, just delete yourself off social media altogether and don't go near it. But I know that's not practical. As you said, they're going to find a way to do it. I just stress to them the importance of, just protecting yourself. Don't take pictures of yourself in compromising situations and send it to your girlfriend. It's not safe. It's not staying between just you and her. Very rare does that happen. It's going to get out there. If you don't want that to happen, just don't do it. And I also then encourage the parents have these conversations with your kids. Stay on top of them, like you said. Be a parent. Get in there. Express to them how important it is not to do that. Because one, you don't want that to happen to you, or you don't want to get caught up in a legal situation where someone's going to make an allegation, and it turns out you do have that picture on your phone, and we can figure out if you sent it out there. Then that's just going to create a problem. But really, just communication and education is the way you do it.
Should phones be treated like tools or like substances needing limits?
I think we all know, or maybe not all of us, but we can tell if someone's been drinking too much or using drugs, right? There are telltale signs. I'm saying that correctly. How many of our kids know what it feels like to be on their screen for too long, right? What indicators are popping up for them that they're like, oh, I should probably put this down now. So for the younger they are, the less likely they're going to know that. So I think absolutely we have to treat it as though this is something that can lead to more problems if not used with balance and safely.
Anybody else want to add to that?
I think used correctly, a phone is an amazing thing, right? It allows kids to connect with people. My daughter has friends. We live in Cold Spring Harbor. My daughter dances at Posey, right? It allows her to maintain friendships with these people in other towns that she doesn't get to see every day. She hasn't made a ton of connections in her local community, but her phone allows her to stay connected to a much broader audience. So it makes her feel connected and feel a sense of belonging, right? And I'm aware of that, but I also know if I don't put limits on it, right, she's going to be on it forever, and probably most of it's scrolling really silly things, and it's really hard. When I was a kid, right, if people made plans and I didn't know about it, ignorance was bliss, right? I couldn't find out that they were all hanging out together, right? I just was home playing video games, right? Today, if you're not invited to something, instantly. And that's really sad and really scary. As a parent, it's really hard to deal with the outcome of that. And as a kid, you feel really lonely, really left out, and it's an immediate knowing. And that's really hard and something to be aware of.
Kids also worry about being not noticed and forgotten about. So it's not even like they're missing out, but they're also fearing like, why didn't they open my Snap, or did they forget about me?
Yeah. But at the same time, on the tool side, right? Whatever you're into, whatever your hobbies are, you have the ability to go learn about them, right? If you're into ballet, my daughter's into ballet, right? We dance at Posey, I've said that. I'll find her scrolling and watching all sorts of really cool videos online about dancing and tying point shoes and things that I didn't even know existed 5 years ago, right? And so there's a positive to it also, right? And you can have that discussion with your kids, right? Or have that make the argument to you why social media is important. Like, why should I get the next half hour to doom scroll on TikTok, right? Is that good or bad, right? Make them sell it, right? Okay, fine, you did a good job. I'll give you a half hour, right? But put the timer on, because if you don't, you're going to come back in an hour. They're going to be on it.
Mm-hmm. And if I can take the, do you want to, Susan? If I can take that it just one step further, I would say, don't just make them sell it to you. Join them.
Yes.
Right? Redirect. They're into gaming? Great. What game are you playing? Tell me about the game. Can I join? Let me build a character. I'll play with you. Right? Don't remove yourself. Folks, again, you're all part of this ecosystem, whether you want it or not. You already are.
Ignorance is not bliss here.
Exactly. Embrace it.
Chloe, I have a question for you. If your parent came in and set boundaries, how would you feel about that?
Aggravated.
Aggravated.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, why is that? Why is that?
Because they also stay up really late. It's almost kind of like first thing that'll come to mind. It's like, you stay up late too. So what if why can't I? That's the first thing that comes to mind.
So they're modeling that behavior for you, so you're thinking it's okay. Deborah, you want answers to that? Do you have anything to say about that?
I think it really depends on the kid. If your kids can hold a conversation with strangers, they can order on the telephone, they can act socially with manners and responsibly. I think that you don't have to be. I feel like it's all about balance. So as long as your child is able to contribute as a member in society, there are some limits that I think are okay not to be so strict about. Again, if you're having open conversations about safety, maybe once in a while you're still checking in on them on their phones. I don't know, again, if that's an invasion of privacy, but still what your family values are. I have a 15, going to be 16-year-old and a 12-year-old. When my 15-year-old was her age, was 12, she got a phone. My 12-year-old now does not have a phone. Like, we know more as parents. We're more educated on this topic. So to answer the question about boundaries, like, you really just have to know your kid and know if this is going to create more problems or if this is going to help. I mean, boundaries do help kids feel safe, but I think at 16 years old, 15, 16, it's a little different than, a 2 and a 3-year-old who's just starting, doesn't need that phone, right? Their personality is just beginning.
Dan, how do you model healthy screen time?
Oh, man. I'm a corporate lawyer. I'd love to. We tried to just spread awareness in my house, but it's really hard. At 10 o'clock at night, I'm tired. I've had a long day. I don't want to go have a fight with my 13-year-old to take her phone away. Maybe 3 or 4 nights a week, I have the courage to go do it, and a couple nights it slips, and then those mornings she's late for school, and it just sets a bad tone for the whole day. We try to, educate, right? I told my daughter I was coming to this and tried to drag her and, failed, but it's okay. We try to have phone-free dinners once a week, at least. It's a really low goal. But once a week, we'll even if we're just bringing in and not cooking, it's like just, hey, we're not going to have our phones for a half hour. It's hard for me, right? That first 10 or 15 minutes is really difficult. But I guarantee you, if you took your phone away from your kid and dealt with the first 15 or 20 minutes of getting yelled at or literally berated with mean comments, you'll end up with a better, more enjoyable experience for the rest of that 2 hours that you've taken the phone away. It's worth that 15 minutes of pain. I don't model my phone very well. I've learned to delete certain apps because I get really sucked into them, especially when I'm tired and cranky. So I delete apps for myself. But I would have to say, do as I say, not as I do sometimes.
Right.
It's really hard.
Len, what setting should every family turn on tonight, if you were to suggest any?
I would say some sort of a reminder, a family reminder that can go across. You typically have family accounts, right? So you have your Apple ID, and then your family members will have their Apple ID. If you're all in the same family account, you could set a reminder that will appear across all family accounts to turn off the phone. So 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, just set a reminder. Is it going to do much? Only psychological. Right?
Well, you're in it together. It sounds like you're making something about the family, not just about one person.
That's why I said lead by example. It's just think of your family as a successful company, right? In a successful corporation, the CEO usually leads by example. Look at NVIDIA with Jensen Huang, right? The culture of the company is his behavior. Be by example. Be the CEO.
So if you're unable to put your phone down, another trick that I do with my kids is I'll tell them what I'm using. I'll tell them why I'm on my phone. I'll make limits and I'll say it out loud so that they understand I'm not just ignoring the rules of the family, putting it on them. I don't know how many of you saw the psychological experiment, the skill base, when maybe we took a psych class at school. It's where the mom is interacting with her child in a hot chair and they're engaging with one another and they're having either the child maybe like this little baby's age and like being very expressive, and then the parent turns their back. So you start to watch the child's face get extremely distressed, right? Tries to interact, tries to, move around their body to get the parent's attention and nothing. So there are children who cry. There are children who just lose all affect. So I think this study was done many, many years ago before cell phones were even a thing. But if you think about what your own child experiences when you're holding up your phone in front of them. So I think just telling them what you're doing involves them, right? And it gives you permission to do your business if you have to. And if it's not business, just go in your room, shut the door, whatever you need to do, and make it like a limit between what they're saying you do and what you're doing.
Detective, how do you balance education and prevention with enforcement when it comes to youth?
So, as I said before, the big thing that I always tell people is it's education. Talk to your kids, let them know, hey, this can happen. It's a great tool. It's a great responsibility. You have it now. You can explore the world. Here's your phone, but just with that becomes potential consequences. Talk to your kids. Let them know what can happen. We try to keep a lot of that stuff in the family. If there is some, people come in and make complaints, we say, well, is there something you want to handle as a parent? Sometimes that's best, and not to get the police involved. And I'm saying that as a cop. We will get involved, though, enforcement-wise, is if, we're talking, this dissemination of, inappropriate pictures or special involving minors. There's no real discretion on that. There's no real, we can't really do education on that. That's when enforcement comes out. That's when, we're going to be dropping subpoenas and trying to find out what's going on, and we will make an arrest on that. But, the bullying, the stuff like that, even some levels of aggravated harassment, I don't want to say it's part of growing up. It was, before phones, it was, oh, this guy said he was going to beat me up. And you're like, okay, well, let's talk it out. Let's figure it out. The same still can apply if it comes to texting and social media stuff. Sometimes it's just best to talk to your kids. I'm not really sure how far the school goes. I did talk with the school today. They will get involved if students are there. I know they have extra resources with like guidance counselors and stuff like that. But the point I'm trying to say is just talk to your kids and educate them.
Well, what does digital literacy really look like?
Honestly, that would really depend on the person, right? What does literacy look like? Forget the digital part. How much do you want to know? How involved do you want to be? That will kind of determine what you will learn. There are plenty of people using all these electronic devices who barely know how to turn them on and turn on the app that they, are they digital illiterate because they know how to turn on the device? Well, if you ask somebody, 30 years ago, yeah, that they're phenomenal, they're a guru. If you ask somebody nowadays, no, they're not. So I don't think there's a way to gauge digital literacy in today's day and age, like on a broad perspective. It's really in your narrow perspective, what it is that you use, what do you have, that we need to be literate in.
Thank you. Chloe, if you were to say or break down the amount of time that you use during the day, What percentage would you say is on school? What's personal? Like, how do you break that down? What are some of the things that you look at?
I think it's going to bed, waking up in the morning, before getting ready to school, on the way to school. And I would say like a small percentage is in school sometimes, even with the law.
Yeah, now with the law, right? So mostly going to bed or waking up in the morning. Okay. So, Deborah, how does dopamine from constant scrolling compare to other reward-seeking behaviors?
Alcohol, caffeine, anything that is not natural is going to increase your dopamine. Gaming, I learned recently, it was, I guess the two games were Roblox and I'm forgetting Fortnite, thank you, were the two highest dopamine surging elements, if you will, that raised the dopamine like over thousands and thousands percent. So screens are gonna, I think it's like 1,000, but imagine like then coming down from that, right? If you have nothing and you just take your child's phone away, you're gonna be like, even somebody who's not highly sensitive or overly anxious is gonna have need a calm down moment. But imagine kids who are neurodivergent or overly anxious or sensitive, like what that's going to do to their nervous system. And it's really messing with the reward system, attention system.
So I was working with a woman who has a 14-year-old and obviously is addicted to Fortnite. So what she did is she tried to take the server away, so that she could, because he was up till 2 a.m. in the morning and she could not control it. I can't believe the breakdown this kid had over that. It was so serious, and it was really scary. I mean, she really had no clue how to handle this. When should parents look for support? Professional support.
Again, going back to any time that you see a shift in their personality, it's really important to teach your kids how to be frustrated, to allow them the space to be in discomfort, to create opportunities for them to come down naturally without a screen. So as I was saying before, like finding out why they're using your screen so much. Sometimes they're just like bored. Okay, great. So what else can you do to occupy your time? Sometimes it's I'm feeling socially anxious. Sometimes it's I want to connect with my friends. There's lots of different reasons. So finding ways to help your child manage those emotions in real life ways. But to answer your question, Linda, anytime that you feel like your child's pulling away from you, that they're no longer interested in things that used to be of interest to them in like an extreme way, absolutely connect with someone that may have been through this, another parent, has information, therapists, social workers, anybody in your community.
So I come across a lot of parents that share that their kids don't have any social skills today. And they don't have social skills, and I don't mean none, but, they're limited because they're always on gaming. They're always on the phones. They don't really know how to socialize. So what do you do in a situation like that?
Yeah. Again, every child is different, and I think you have to find ways to teach your kids how to be social. And it's an easy out just to put a screen in front of your child when things feel uncomfortable and icky. But if they're struggling and they're having huge meltdowns or they're being extremely hypervigilant about using the phone, then it's time to perhaps go in the opposite direction and become absent with your phone and screens. It's not normally where I start with families when I'm working with them, but if there's such extreme measures, you've got to take a look and see, pick your heart.
So we're coming to a close on the panel. Just a couple of closing questions I have. Where do schools, parents, and communities share responsibility?
Oh my gosh, my almost 16-year-old said today that my attention is so much greater in school now that there are these laws passed that we can't have our phones anymore. And in general, even more so now, but in general, because they don't have the distractions. So I think the schools, I'm for it now. I think it's done wonderful things.
Chloe, how do you feel about that?
I believe it has like the right idea behind it, but again, kids will always like find a way to defy it. It's almost like, we see kids still like walking with the phones out because it's almost like they're not afraid of like the consequence, even with like the knowing
There are no consequences, right? Yeah. You can. You want to answer that?
I actually wanted to uh, uh, re- respond to something that Deborah said. Do you think maybe it's an evolution rather than a degradation of social skills? Because think about it this way. We didn't have, when we were growing up, well, I'm over 50. So when I was growing up, I didn't have these phones and I didn't have these electronic communications, instant communications, mind you, right? There was no email even when I was growing up. To this day, I still often get emails, especially from older people, which in acceptable email formats look absolutely atrocious, right? Whereas to the kids who grew up with electronics, with these devices, this is how they communicate.
Right.
So maybe it's an evolution rather than a degradation.
As long as they're still able to go into community and have conversations with people.
But the community is electronic. It's a digital community.
I don't know. I don't think that we should allow that though, because we need synchronous relationships to teach us how to resolve conflicts in the world. We need synchronous relationships to teach us how to have empathy. So if we just say give up and say, well, it's an evolution, then what do we allow?
I just don't think we need to completely reject this notion. I think we need to embrace the fact that the world is changing.
I do agree with that.
And I have to agree with that also, which leads me right into what does a healthy balance realistically look like? Because I think we need to have a healthy balance. I don't think, is it an evolution? I don't know. It's definitely a generational thing. It's what they're growing up with. It's what they know. And I embrace it. I tend to like technology, but I think there's a balance, and I see a lot of kids who don't have any balance, tempers that I've never seen before. It's unbelievable. So, what is a healthy, realistic balance? And I guess that's a question you can all ask yourselves, in your own families. What works for you? What works for your family? That's some of the questions I would have. If families take away one thing tonight, what should it be?
I go back to my saying of can't control everything, but we can control the way that we communicate with our kids. So if you're finding right now in your home that there's more conflict than you're comfortable with, then it might be time to look at how you're entering into these conversations as opposed to just controlling everything and trying to control it. Find a way to collaborate and work together with your family.
Detective?
Yeah, I'll agree with Len that yes, I think it's a degradation, at least in my field. You still have to talk to people. You still have to look at people in the eye and face and talk, especially in policing. And we keep talking about kids, not to go back, but we have officers that are in their, they're 21 to 24. And I can tell they just, like you were just put in front of a screen at a restaurant, weren't you? They get in confrontation, and what do? Oh, can I have your license? I'm like, no, look at them. Give me your license. You need to be able to look at someone and talk to them. And the phones take that away. Total degradation with that. But I guess when it comes to balancing, listen, they're here. They're not going anywhere. You're going to have to find some kind of balance with them. But
to be honest, the only thing I would advise people to take away is totally independent use of devices. There's a term which we sometimes use, and it's called device abandonment, right? So in the industry, device abandonment is you have a device that's just sitting there by itself. Nobody's bothering to use it, and it's a great attack surface because nobody knows that this device exists. Well, I think the same concept could be applied to your child, right? If you don't know what the child is doing on the device, if you're not sharing in that experience, which kind of goes back to what I was saying before, join them in their experience. Obviously not in chatting with their friends, but in doing and being on their apps, watching their videos with them, maybe even following the same TikTok with them. I think that's the part that you kind of have to abandon, just letting him completely be independent of your involvement.
Great. Thank you. Chloe, you have the last word here. What should people take away? For somebody at your age that has to do with this, what would you want to say to her?
I think it's kind of understanding like the generation we grew up in. Like nowadays, like the phones are normalized. I think it's understanding like why the kids use their phone. Like I think parents, such the biggest thing is like kind of sympathizing for like not so much yelling at them, but kind of trying more to understand like why they're using it. And I think that's a big way.
Never, just
Touched on was communication, negotiation.
right.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I want to thank everyone on the panel. The panelists will be around to talk to for a few minutes. We have a lot of resources on our website. So if you're looking for resources, I have a card up here I could give you, and you can go onto the website. Follow us on Instagram, and we also have a YouTube page where we do podcasts every month on different subjects. So you could listen to them on YouTube as well. Thank you so much.